On this episode of Digital Strips, Steve talks about how he prepared for that most enjoyable of parental responsibilities, the sex talk. Meanwhile, Jason tells the story of how he used sex ed to subjugate the poor. Now, we often talk about this podcast and say it's two guys talking about, pop culture and parenting and all that stuff. And parenting always seems to come up. We throw that in there like we're a parenting podcast, but we're not a parenting podcast. We usually talk about how much, last time we talked about parenting was you complaining about how much you hate that your daughter lies badly and can't stop playing video games.
This is correct.
But today we're going to take a little venture into parenting. This is a parenting episode of the podcast. So if you're one of those out there with your fur babies and your childless lives, just go and ride your jet ski or whatever it is you people do. I don't know. I ain't been one in 13 years. I don't remember what people who don't have kids do.
I think they basically just get to enjoy life and not have to worry about kids for any single thing they do. They seem to enjoy it.
Now, in every parenting relationship, or every parenting partnership, because usually parenting is done with another person, ideally. If in both of our cases, we have a wife who is also part of the parenting. Usually when it's a two-parent situation, one parent tends to take over certain responsibilities, at least for certain kids. And mine has definitely been, we need to talk about anything that Americans talk about. Like, we are very much divided our responsibilities on cultural lines. If it's about American stuff, I got to talk about it. So that means I've gotten signed up for scouts, doing team sports, all that sort of stuff. That falls under the American purview. And apparently, so does sex education. Because apparently in China, they just don't have that. They just don't tell the kids anything. And so, this is my problem.
I mean, that checks out. But also, they don't do a great job of it here anymore, I don't think. So,
It depends where you are and what you can consider good. And, I'm sure some people like whatever it is, and no one's ever going to be happy. And I do firmly believe that sex education, like all education, needs to start in the home. And that parents should be the ones to have the greatest influence on their children. So I don't mind this. So we've had a few versions of the talk with my son. I've mentioned a few of them here on the podcast, like as lead-offs into other things. So lately we've been doing... He's in health class now. And every week we have to talk about something involving health. And it's usually puberty stuff. So we talked about butt hair and stuff like that. And it was a great time because, this is the face you want to talk to butt hair about. Let me tell you that right now.
Because you've got a lot of face hair? So you probably have comparatively a lot of butt hair as well?
No one has this much face hair and no butt hair. I assure you of that, sir.
Yes, sure. Makes sense. Ew.
Don't you ew me.
I don't want to hear about your butt hair.
I will not be shamed.
You should. I don't want to hear about your butt hair. I'm going to, and it's fine. But this is not what I thought this subject was about when I said, yeah, go ahead and talk about that one.
No, see, that's the thing. Like, the butt hair conversation is an easy one. I'll have the butt hair conversation with anyone. I don't random strangers. You want to talk about butt hair? We'll talk about butt hair. We'll go random kids. Hey, you look about 9 years old. Guess what you have in your future? Butt hair. Let's talk. I don't mind catching people up on the ins and outs of butt hair. You hope it's all outs, because any in butt hairs, that's bad. Nothing's worse than an ingrown butt hair. I'll tell you that right now.
God.
So we had that conversation. We've had other conversations about the various changes that happen, and a few about sexual urges and stuff like that. My wife, on the other hand, her job is to read all the emails, because every teacher sends an email every week about our children, and she reads them all and tells me the Cliff Note versions, because I ain't reading that many emails. So it's symbiosis of marriage right there. I'll talk about butt hair. You read emails. Separate but equal.
Yeah. Separate but equal.
Yeah. I want that on a shirt. So she said, okay, so you need to you need to make sure that you do the health conversation with our son this week. And I'm like, okay. and like we usually do that. And she's like, I don't think he's going to want to talk to you about this one. You're going to have to like engage on this one. You're going to have to remind him that this is something that you need to do. And I'm like, really? What's it about? She's like, well, it's about sex stuff. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, and she's kind of like, do you think he's ready for that conversation? I'm like, he was ready a year ago when we had that conversation with him. Remember, you were there. You were quiet and you didn't help much, but you were there.
I talked to our son about sex and you just stared at him. Didn't work too well, did it? And now we're back.
And she's like, no, like they sent me the material and there's all kinds of stuff in that you have to go over. I'm like, what do you mean all kinds of stuff? And she's like, about like oral and anal and stuff like that. And I'm like, we gotta talk about butt sex? What? I don't.
You're like, you and I don't even talk about butt sex. I mean, if you're talking about it.
I've tried breaching the conversation a couple of times, but it's. So I'm like, okay, well, if that's what we need to do, because like once again, good education begins at home. I don't want to be a negligent father. He's gonna learn about it. Like we all learned about this stuff. Might as well at least know that I am an open and truthful resource for all things. So this was over the weekend, and the stuff has to be done by Friday the next day. So this was Sunday night. I haven't had this conversation. And I talked to my son that the next day, like, hey, do we need to do your health this week? He's like, yep. Okay, do you want to do it now? Nope. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he's seen the paper, because they give you the paper on Monday, and they give you a week to dread this conversation with your parents. And then off you go. So he didn't want to do it Monday. Tuesday, we're busy. Wednesday, I'm like, you sure we don't got to do it? And he's like, shouldn't we do it today? Today we have time. We're going to be really busy tomorrow. Like, we can do it Friday. I'm like, isn't it due Friday? It's like, we got time. Fine. So finally, like the day before he had to turn it in, I'm like, do we need to do your health thing? He's like, oh yeah, let me go get it. So he pulls it out. He's like, okay, this is a list of things that people can do on a date. We need to decide which ones are appropriate and which ones aren't. I'm like, ooh, this is getting juicy. Because all I know is somewhere on this list are things. And so, like, he hands me the list. He's like, okay, talking or texting. I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to get to know somebody. Dancing. Yeah, I mean, don't dance at the movies, but if you're going to a dance, dancing's a good thing to do. Holding hands, kissing, and then it ended with just sexual intercourse, and that was it. And then at the end of the list, I'm like, hey, wait, where's the other ones? I was told there'd be more.
Oh man, where's the anal?
I've been working on metaphors here, man.
I didn't even get to talk about oral, man.
I was looking forward to that. As so often is the case, my expectations were raised and then lowered. Were not met.
I had a PowerPoint.
These are the things that you have to do so that they will do these things.
Oh my God, can you imagine teaching your kid that by doing a PowerPoint and the pictures in the PowerPoint are ones you actually took of you and your wife?
Oh, gross.
This is the method that's called a lollipop, son. Now look, no, don't be afraid. Don't you be ashamed. This is totally natural.
Don't worry. This is like all from 13 years ago when this stuff still happened.
Yeah. You and your sister came along, and this doesn't happen anymore. Teach that to your teachers.
So, have you had to have these conversations with your daughter yet?
No.
Are you going to?
We've just now gotten to the point where I've been asked by my wife to knock every time I go into her room. So just today we had a moment because it's spring break right now as of this recording. So she's home all day. And my wife told her before we go out later, you need to take a shower. It's like, she fought her on it, but then she just decided to take a shower. I wasn't aware of this because I had my noise canceling headphones on like I always do during work. So I could hear my wife getting in the shower in the next room, but I didn't hear my daughter, who was also apparently in the shower at the same time in the other bathroom. So I haven't heard from her anything from her in a while, and that's concerning, as you know, with any child. So I went and checked on her and looked in her room, opened the door, don't see anybody. I take that back. I knocked lightly, and then I opened the door. I was like, okay, nobody in here. Okay, so I look around every other room in the house because it's a pretty small house. There's not a whole lot of places to hide. So I'm like, how'd she go? What's going on? Like, why is my wife in the shower and she's missing? Like, what is she doing? What is she getting herself? What trouble is she getting into? So I go back upstairs. I'm like, okay, check her room again. Maybe she popped out of whatever. She likes to hide. She likes to just hide somewhere and be like, oh, you're never going to find me. And then just show up another place and be like, you didn't find me. It's like, I didn't know you were hiding. That's stupid. That's pointless. So I thought it was that. And she was just going to show up in a room like, haha, you didn't see me. So I throw the door open. Boom! Door gets slammed back in my face. I'm like, what? She goes, knock! It's like, I didn't know you were in here. And she just laughed. And I was like, where were you? Like, were you in your room? Like, yes. Where were you? Behind the door. It's like, why didn't you say something? So, yeah, been plenty of instances of you have to knock. I'm like, I did. You're not going to believe me because you know that I'm like the man. And so I'm not going to say, oh, I don't need to knock. I need to go into my daughter's room and find out what's going on. I'm like, no, I'm happy to knock. I did. And then she was disappeared as far as I'm concerned. So she...
If you knock, they hide.
Yeah, that's not fair. It's not what we agreed upon. So that's the stage I'm at. There is a talk to be had, and I believe it's coming soon, but not quite. And I know she's learned some things at school, and anytime my wife has tried to bring it up with her, it's just a no, we're not doing this. No, you can't make me.
She does know that this has to happen at some point, right?
I mean, no, she's obviously, and well, I'm never gonna do anything, so I don't have to learn it. So there, I'm just gonna go back to playing Switch. Bye. I'm sure is her mindset.
Oh, your daughter has shot it down. I thought your wife was shutting it down.
No, this is my daughter who's going into middle school soon. That is not my wife. My wife understands. Yes.
Okay. Well, you just said she, pronoun boy.
Yes, the first 3 years of our courtship, I had to teach my wife sex education. She was a Puritan.
Well, like she's like, you can have that conversation. I'm just going to sit there awkwardly next.
No,
I hear that's the winning tactic these days.
So I never.
It's all the rage from the.
I definitely learned from school. I don't remember ever learning anything specifically from my parents until a girlfriend. I believe I mentioned before, the very young one that was, so young. Her father reminded me, it'd be statutory if you did anything. That guy. Yeah, this relationship. So that girl, she didn't really want to make out much, but she was all into sucking necks. And I mean, like a vacuum cleaner. She just latch on and just take all my blood. And so I worked at Walmart at the time, as did she. And I came home for lunch one day, and I was just I remember it was spaghetti. It was spaghetti leftovers. I love them spaghetti leftovers. So I got a big plate and put it on the table and was getting ready to eat it. And I don't remember if my dad shut the door. There was definitely, but from both parents, there was clearly some conversation going on behind me that I missed. Was probably all just nonverbal communication, but it ended with okay, we need to talk.
You talk to him. No,
yeah.
You talk to him. No, you talk to him.
So it became both of them, and it was just how do you feel about this girl? What have you done? Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, oh man. This spaghetti doesn't taste so good anymore. I don't like spaghetti. You ruined spaghetti. Can I leave, please? No. Okay.
Okay. And so did they make you pull down your shirt to make sure there weren't hickeys further down? Or
I mean, no. It was the most non-committal. Now we have to talk about this sex stuff. But they got the points. As soon as they asked about it, and I said, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, and it's not really terribly serious, but I like her and whatever. It was like ding ding. They both got the check, and it's like, okay, we're good, done. Nope, walking away. I don't want to hear any more. So
let the records show we had the talk.
Yes,
we're done.
Their file was clean, and they're good. So. Yeah,
we did the court mandated minimum.
Yes, the bare minimum.
Done.
That's what my parents did, and that's the only real talk I remember having with them. I remember learning it in school and learning some, but I mean, I guess everything else I just picked up on my own, or yeah, I don't know, picked up through experience, which wasn't a whole lot, but you know, you figure things out. You fumble in the dark until it's like, hey.
You will learn real quickly where You learn real quickly where a hickey comes from. That is a hard sentence.
You learn real quickly where a hickey comes from. It's not that hard, but yeah, it's I knew what they were, and I knew what she was doing. I knew I liked it, but that's also like as far as it went. Like anytime I'd try and like take it further, it was just like no. Let's just watch TV.
No. The law, Jason. The law.
Oh yeah, I mean, looking back, I'm very glad I didn't go further. Oh man, who knows where it would have gone, where I would be today. So yeah, no, it's for the best. But at the time, it's all I could get.
I also did not get a lot of official education at home. We did get at school the slideshow of venereal diseases. This was a annual event that everyone knew was coming. Like, because health was something that I think this was 10th grade. So the sophomores all knew this was coming because the juniors and seniors made sure you knew. They're like, hey, guess what? Sometime you're going to get a permission slip that says, we are going to show your kids slides. If you don't want us to do that, sign this thing. Get your parents to sign it. You don't want to see this. And we're all like, oh, whatever. And then like they showed it, and it's like by 4 or 5 versions of herpes where you're just like, can we be done? And they're like, no, this slideshow goes the entire period because there are 101 different ways that sexual diseases will mess up your junk. And we are going to show you all of them.
Yeah. And at that point, like you said, you're young enough that you're just like, but I'm never going to have sex. Like, can I please leave? Like, none of that's ever going to happen to me.
In 10th grade, you were thinking that was your game plan. Like,
I'm thinking in 5th grade is when we had to watch that.
Well, yeah, there was a different one in there. That was the Wet Dream Boob movie. And that's like a whole nother different thing.
The Wet Dream Boob movie.
Well, because that's what it was. Like the one in 5th grade, because that was the one where we got split into different classes. And the one that we saw was very specific to men. It's like, okay, you're going to start noticing that your muscles are getting bigger. You're going to notice you're developing an Adam's apple. You're going to start growing body hair. You're going to start getting boners. And you're going to get sticky sheets sometimes. And then so that they go over that for like 25 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes, like, by the way, women get breasts, never touch them. And that was the entire video. And so we had zero clue about anything else that happened to women. So we're just sitting there thinking like, what the heck? We have to go with voice cracking, sticky sheets, unwanted motion in the ocean, and women just get breasts. It is not fair how much men suffer from puberty and how much women don't. And then in 6th grade, we saw the video that explained both sides of the coin, and we're just like, oh, well, we were quite wrong, weren't we, gentlemen? I believe we all have some apology letters to write. Let us go about that for the rest of this day.
So I have 2 points, and then we will leave this subject behind. So I remember that 5th grade video and talk, but the reason I remember it is I don't remember learning a thing from that video. I just remember me and the other boys were ragging on this one boy in the class who was one of the poor kids in our school, one of the poor kids in the class. We joked about the fact that he and his brothers, who he had like 5 brothers, were all the sperms that were going towards the egg. And so I think they stopped the video. I think we may have gotten through it. I don't remember. But we all had to go sit in the principal's office. It's the only time I ever sat in the principal's office. All of us around in a circle and had to explain why, no, he and his brothers were not the sperms. It's important that you learn where the sperms come from, but they are not sperms. And also we need to go around and like say something nice about him because that's cruel and mean.
Okay, yes, that is cruel and mean. And yes, you should be punished for your strangely classist society you had in 5th grade. I remember you brought up how much you hated the poor back then several times, and people from Oklahoma. But Like, biologically, that principal had a duty to set things straight, and that kid and each one of his brothers at one point in time were a sperm swimming towards an egg, and they were the one that won. They were the best sperm and should be celebrated for that. Every human being represents the best of millions of sperm, and that is what makes us all beautiful.
Okay, well said. Point number 2, I didn't really learn about wet dreams, and I didn't experience it until I was married. And I remember thinking to myself, is this what they're talking about? This sucks. I ruined my sheets. Now I have to wash the covers and, yeah, I'm sorry, honey. Yeah, no, trust me. I didn't want to do this either. It sucks. I hate it too. I woke up in an extremely cold spot. Didn't know why.